This is Arno at the BGC, and I'm here with my guest, Jaeden. Jaeden, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Jaeden, and I am working at the University of Calgary as a clinical trial coordinator right now.
Awesome. So you kind of answered my first question, but what does a clinical trial coordinator do?
So basically, there's a lot of different trials going on at the university, and depending on which team you work for, your job would look kind of different. But for my job, we work with real participants, so it's a lot of scheduling them in, booking them in. Our team isn't very big, so I get to be pretty hands-on in a lot of aspects. So I am doing it, like administering the treatment. So there's a lot of participant interaction there, one-on-one, which I really enjoy. And then as well, there's a lot of like regulatory stuff that I have to be in control of, like Health Canada and like our research ethics boards require a lot of documentation. So that's a big part of it as well. And just kind of keeping up to date on all that paperwork. And then of course, when the study's done, there's all this data analysis, paper writing. So it's nice. I get my fingers in a little bit of everything. So.
Awesome. Why did you originally get into this?
So I did my schooling in neuroscience, and then this clinical trial is part of the mental health and psychiatry at University of Calgary. So it's kind of a nice meeting there, and I've always done a lot of volunteer work with mental health and depression, so I'm kind of interested in that. So those kind of just married together really well. At first, I was really hesitant to get into research because my kind of previous experience with it from my undergrad was more on the animal side. So you're doing a lot of like cell work or pipetting, and it was not for me. It was very repetitive, and I'm more of a people person. So I was sort of hesitant to get into research, but this is so different than what like my very small sample that I had from undergrad. So.
Totally. So what does the day-to-day look like? I know you kind of talked about this, but for you, what does the day-to-day look like?
That's probably the hardest part about this job, is it's so cyclical. So we'll go from being super busy, like in the middle of a trial, and then once that trial finishes up, it's like very dead, and we're kind of waiting for funding. There's a lot of, like academia is quite slow moving, so waiting for funding and approvals that way. And then Health Canada is incredibly slow moving. So there's a lot of downtime. So really depending on day to day, it can really vary. But usually if we have participants coming in, there's a lot of administering treatments. There's a lot of just keeping up with paperwork. And then if we're not in the middle of a trial, it's either we're writing grants, or we're writing ethics applications or Health Canada applications, or we're doing a lot of data analysis on our last study. So
it sounds like you're doing a lot more than just neuroscience, which is what you studied. What type of training or schooling do you need in order to get into a role like a clinical trial coordinator, or a role like you're in?
So I started as a research assistant, and I'm not sure how unique my situation is because I got in with a lab. I was like the first staff member for this lab, so I've kind of grown with it. And then I've had the opportunity to do kind of hands-on training and some online courses to be able to grow into this role. I think more typically for a coordinator, you can do some, there are some like clinical trial coordinator courses that you can take, which would also come with more salary. And if I were to move, I might have a harder time moving labs and keeping my designation. But I think I was quite lucky to kind of grow with this role because I've been here for almost 3 years now. So it's kind of just slowly happened. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's really great. Thank you. And I think that definitely shows kind of some of the different paths that you could take, because you kind of grew into this role, and there are different paths that you could take to get into that role as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that ties in really well to my next question. How does someone get a job in the field, even if they were just interested in taking part in and administering clinical trials? How do you get involved with something like that?
So I had just found this on the University of Calgary website. I know there are, when I was looking, there was a lot of different research positions, and I think it's pretty typical to kind of start as a research assistant or start somewhere else in the lab. Even we have a lot of, well, not this summer because of COVID, but previous summers we've had a lot of like summer students or just volunteers in the lab, and then they kind of get their foot in the door that way, and then we really like them and can bring them back in for more. As well, we work with like master's students and PhD students, people doing their postdocs. So that's another way to kind of see what the lab is like. And if someone does a master's with us, we'd obviously would want to keep them on because they know everything, and it would be really nice to have them on the team. So there's that way as well.
Cool. What are some of the challenges you faced?
Probably the biggest one is because when the work is less busy with participants, like we still have a lot of stuff to do, but it's very much self-directed, and I really struggle with time management. So if I'm not like held accountable to my time, I'll often end up with, it's the end of the week and I have like 48 hours of work to do in like 5 hours. So that's something that's I struggle with, but it's good practice. It's a good skill to learn. Because it is so cyclical, there'll be kind of big chunks of times where we're pretty slow, and it's up to you like to really make the most out of your job. Like this job does come with a lot of great opportunities. Like I've been able to write papers. Like I have a couple first authorships out there now, which is really exciting. Like I've learned how to analyze MRI data. I've learned how to use MATLAB, which is like still struggling with that. But there are all these resources that working in research, there's so many different things, and you're able to really learn all these different skills, but it's kind of up to you to do it. So that's it's kind of the hardest part, is like keeping yourself busy, but also a really positive part of it.
Awesome. I think time management is something that everyone struggles with a little bit in every career, right? It's pretty universal.
Yeah. I'd like to think so, yeah. It's not just me.
Do you have any advice or tips for youth who'd be interested into going into research or into going into sort of a clinical trial coordinator role?
Yeah, well, with the research in general, I would say like like I mentioned, when I was first doing my undergrad and I just had limited experience with it, I kind of in my head was like, oh, I don't like research. Like I don't find it interesting, but it's such a broad, like there's so many different things going on, whether you're researching like on cells or animals or humans, and then even just differences between people's labs. Like I mentioned, our lab is quite small, so I kind of have the opportunity to do a little bit of everything, whereas other labs that like are kind of in the same cohort as us, they are huge. So they have like one person that's just doing documentation, one person that's just administering treatments, one person's that's just doing like accounting, and those guys like really enjoy their role, and they like how they can get so skilled and like specific into it, whereas I kind of like this more general, doing a little bit of everything. So I would say maybe feel around, don't like don't like discount anything because you've tried one thing and didn't like it. Like it's very different for everything, and I imagine that is applicable to all other careers as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jaeden. I really appreciate having you here, and I'm sure the youth that are watching this appreciate as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And to any of the youth that are watching, we will be posting videos throughout the week, so stay tuned. You're going to learn about a whole bunch of exciting careers. Yeah, thank you.